Hey, what's up everybody? This is Survival1 and today I want to show you guys one of the weirdest but also fun and pretty strong glitches that I found at Borderlands 3. This is specifically for Amara, and also I'm going to be doing this in-game live, so sorry if you guys hear clicking or keyboard clicking or if the commentaries are all over the place because there's a ton of different weird effects and stuff with this glitch. So what is the actual glitch? So you can get an anointed buff that I think only comes on shields. That is, while Phase Grasp was active, Amara constantly triggers Novas to deal 3,718 damage. That's the base damage. Now, we can make these Novas happen indefinitely, and the only thing that stops them is exiting the game or going to the main menu. Dying doesn't cancel it. Getting down doesn't cancel it. Fast traveling to different areas doesn't cancel it. Nothing will cancel it besides exiting the game. And there's a ton of effects. So first off, how we do this is basically you phase grasp an enemy, then travel to any other fast travel area that's not on the same map. So I'm in Athena's. So once I phase grasp someone, I have to travel to somewhere that's not Athena's. But before we do that, this seems to be snapshotting what you're using when you use it. So whatever action skill element you have equipped at the time of phase grasping the enemy is what your Novas will trigger as their base damage and their animation. So it's just on shock. If I kept on shock, it would be shock Novas. I'm going to put on fire, which is going to make it be fire Novas. So you could do corrosive, shock, or fire. So what you're going to do, you're just going to phase grasp an enemy. Then you're just going to, you probably heard those clicking because I was clicking pretty hard. Then you're just going to fast travel somewhere. So I'm going to go to Sanctuary. And as you see, you're just going to be Novaing forever now. And it's a decent-ish radius around you, but it's not like really high range. You can already hear while loading in, it's just constant Novas. Now, the one thing you cannot do with this is you cannot phase grasp another enemy. So if you're using a phase grasp build, this isn't going to be that great because you can't use your ability anymore. But you can still switch to any other ability. It's still going, and use them, and it's still going. You also can't take off the shield. So can't take off the shield, can't phase grasp an enemy again. So if you're using any build that's not phase grasp, you can just do this and get a bunch of free damage. Also, if you didn't know, Pippi can actually be haunted. He is haunted. That sucks, dude. But this is just doing damage around you, which baseline would already be pretty good. But this also, for whatever reason, is considering to be gun damage or weapon damage off some talents. So this does work off infusion. And we're going to go test this, if I switch to a different element, it'll also do that other element from infusion. It'll also work with sustainment, so it'll heal us off doing damage to enemies. It'll also work off conflux. So it can apply status effects from whatever damage it's doing, which can apply conflux. So it can actually work off a bunch of your talents, and we'll actually go test that right now. There's also something else it does with the most popular class mod for Amara, the Phase Zerker. And also, what I think is happening with this, when we get more into, you'll see, if you don't know what the Phase Zerker does, it basically gives you stacking damage and cooldown. For whatever reason, whatever you're wearing, so specifically for the class mod that would affect this, whatever you're wearing when you actually use the phase grasp and then fast travel to Sanctuary, it basically snapshots whatever you're using at that time. So it'll actually gain us stacks of Phase Zerker, but we'll go over that in a second. So as you'll see, walking up to enemies, for whatever reason it can crit. I don't know why it's dealing 14,000 to these sometimes. It did 14k to that thing the whole time. This one is actually resistant, but it's just doing 14k to everybody right now. Can I find one? Maybe it's just those little ones? But that's a lot of damage. Okay, I don't know why it's doing 25k now either. I don't know why the damage is going up. I don't think any modifiers should affect it because I tested it before with gun damage, like with gun damage increasers, and it didn't seem to increase it in any way. Also, it does kill skulls. So that's good. And as you'll see, it's also healing me. But yeah, I don't know why it's doing 14k every time now. It was doing 9, and it was seeming to be able to crit sometimes, doing 14k. But yeah, it's just hitting everything. It's considered doing it off our influx, and I'll actually change our action skill element because we do have shock as baseline. So I'll switch to shock and show you. Now it's also dealing shock, and it can apply shock as a status effect. I think it can apply fire as well, and then it can apply any other effect because we have. It's still dealing ridiculous damage to these, and I don't know why. I guess that's just the damage it deals. Maybe I had a reduction before, but yeah, as you can see, it's now dealing shock, and it can put shock status effect. It has corrosive shock and a fire status effect on that one thing. So yeah, I can't apply all the status effects basically. But also something you'll notice, if you look on my buff bar, I have a buff going. This doesn't, on Amara, the only buff that has that symbol, also you'll see I'm getting healed by damaging stuff. Somewhat. It's not crazy healing, but it still heals quite a bit. So as you see, I'm just chunking up my health, basically, which is pretty nice. And as you'll see when I was talking about those buffs, that is actually the Phase Zerker buffs, which gives you weapon damage and action skill cooldown rate. Now, I don't think this increases the damage of the Novas when you have it, but it will just do what it normally says and give you more gun damage and action skill element. And it goes up to 15. It doesn't share the symbol with anything else because it would use these symbols. And I'm pretty sure what is actually happening is when you Violent Tapestry, when you apply a status effect, it gives you a stack of Rush, and when you consume all the stacks of Rush, you get Violent Tapestry. So basically you get the effects of this talent. What I'm thinking it's doing is, for whatever reason, it's giving me these Rush stacks as the Phase Zerker stacks. And also, if we take Phase Zerker off, as I said before, I think this is snapshotting the gear you have on at the time you do it. If we take it off, and another reason I think it's Violent Tapestry is because applying status effects even to ourselves actually makes this trigger. So even with it off, if I go in water, it goes up. It also goes only to 10 because we lose 5 max stacks. But if we put it back on, it now goes up to 15. So I'm pretty sure, for whatever reason, Violent Tapestry, applying status effects, is proccing our Phase Zerker to stack up for whatever reason, even though we're not using an action skill. It's really weird, and this is stuff I was talking about, that it just has really weird effects with it, for whatever reason. But that's pretty much everything I've tested with this so far. You know, you could technically apply most of the elements in the game. If you switch up your build and get down to corrosive, you should be able to do corrosive perfectly fine. With conflicts, you can electrocute, ignite, or melt. As you saw, I had all 3 of those on somebody. Just from this Nova, it'll heal you. It'll, you know, do damage from infusion, all that type of stuff. And you just, you know, go phase grasp someone, fast travel somewhere, and then don't use phase grasp again, and it works perfectly fine. And as you can see, when I use a action skill, it gives me the 15 stacks of Phase Zerker like it normally would off using an action skill. So it is just stacking up Phase Zerker for whatever reason, and it snapshots it so you don't even need to have this thing equipped. Let's see, we'll put on this, which doesn't have any buff that would pop up. It also stacks it only stacks a 10, and I think it freezes the debuff. Okay, so it just removed it when I used an action skill when I took that off. So it seems if I take that off and then use an action skill, we can actually go try it in some water. But it did give me my other stacks. As you can see, that's Violent Tapestry and Do Harm that's stacked because they should be, I guess. But yeah, that's the Phase Zerker stacks. We'll see if we can actually proc it. it's still proccing again without, and it's stacking to 10 because we don't get the +5 buff from the Phase Zerker class mod, but it's still stacking the damage and action skill reduction. And when I use my action skill without it on, it instantly removes all those stacks. I have no idea why this is happening. This is like one of the weirdest glitches, but that's pretty much everything that I have for this glitch. Definitely go use this. If you're doing Circle of Slaughter with a non-phase grass build, or you're doing like trials or just running around farming different bosses and stuff, I'd recommend using this. It's a ton of extra damage, extra healing if you have sustainment, and it's just honestly pretty cool to run around and have a constant nova of element just hitting everything around you. So that's the entire glitch. I want you guys in the comments, if you guys are going to go test this, I'm still going to be doing testing on it. Also, it does seem to be actually, let's see if we take this off. Yeah, so if we don't have a class mod and use an action skill, it does remove the stacks, but it will restack them. So it is snapshotting the Phase Zerker class mod, which is very weird. And also, if you don't have the Phase Zerker class mod on, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the stacks will not be removed unless I use an action skill. Like, they just stay there. Pretty ridiculous. But what I was saying, if you guys are going to be testing this, leave it in the comments if you guys find anything extra with this. I definitely think there could be some other stuff. Also, leave in the comments if you guys have any questions about this build, or not about this build, about this glitch. It's pretty easy to do. But subscribe if you want to see more Borderlands 3 content. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you think about this glitch, what you think about Borderlands 3 as a whole, and thanks for watching.